Alright, this is an interesting one. So the Daily Mail have released the following. Former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder makes big decision regarding his boxing future after losing 4 of his last 5 fights. You do forget that, don't you? 4 of his last 5 fights he's been beaten. So, it says here, despite the losses, 39-year-old Wilder has no intention of hanging up his gloves anytime soon and has decided to fight on. This is according to his trainer, Malik Scott. He definitely wants to fight again for sure. Scott, who married British sports broadcaster Kate Abdo earlier this year. I love the way they add that in, don't they? Like, there's just the most complete miscellaneous point of information, but they just have to chuck Malik Scott. You know he's married to Kate Abdo, don't you? Just chucking that in there. You know, it's not relevant, but we're just going to chuck that in there. Told boxing scene. Some good things should be coming up in 2025. Right, carry on. For Deontay, he's just been resting and focusing on family and businesses. When you are in the second half of your career, I would say the end of his career, much less the second half, and in high-level fights, again, bigger guys, rest is just as important as ripping and running. Okay. Wilder, who previously held the WBC heavyweight title from 2015, lost, blah, 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 blah. That's just the Daily Mail. I don't know why he couldn't pull the trigger, Scott said, of the Zhang fight. At the end of the day, he's human. He went in there and tried his best and lived to fight another day. I'm all right. I'm going to hold off until the end. Sometimes the actual opponents are the problem. People don't like saying that. They'd rather say everything Deontay or I didn't do. That takes away the credit from the opponent and their trainer and what they're able to bring to the table. Was Deontay supposed to win those fights? Absolutely. But this is heavyweight boxing and things happen. Well, supposed to win those fights. Nothing happened in the Parker fight. That's the problem. That's boxing. I know I shouldn't be interjecting. I'll do it at the end. But sometimes you just read something and you're just like, nah. That's boxing. That's life. Sometimes things don't go according to plan and you have to give credit to the opponents and come back stronger. Scott named Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz and Jarrell Miller as ideal opponents for Deontay Wilder's next fight. A fight between Wilder and Joshua has been discussed for years and Scott admitted that it may not be as juicy as it once was, you're telling me, when they were both undefeated, but it's still a juicy fight. Where's more? Oh yeah, here we go. Both Joshua and Wilder have faced calls to retire from some fans, but Scott has a clear message for those critics. Just shut up. Oh, that's a clear message, isn't it? Just shut up. Just shut up and enjoy the show, said Scott, who has worked with Wilder as main trainer since 2021. If you really want them to retire, don't tune in when they fight. Don't pay your hard-earned money to go to the fight. It's just the hypocrisy of boxing fans. I guess you can say I understand all aspects of it. I understand the fans. I understand the fighters, managers and promoters. We all have a perspective, but be respectful of the fighters. And I believe that is the end of it. So, you know, Malik Scott, right? Yeah. You know, as a fighter, I didn't think much of Malik Scott. I did see plenty of his fights throughout the course of his career. He was very unentertaining. As a fighter, to say the least, he was a bit of a slickster. He was a mover. He was quite negative. He wasn't even a big puncher, Malik Scott. So he was never one to really, you know, if you heard Malik Scott was fighting, you know he was never going to set the world alight a heavyweight. You never tuned in. You know, there are fighters there that, you know, a bit like Jarrell Miller, who you know are probably not going to win a heavyweight title or anything like that, or Dylan White is another one. You'd still tune in. But Malik Scott was never like that, you know, and he's never that good. He had questionable heart. Was his chin ever really that... Well, like, he was dropped a couple of times throughout the course of his career, but he was very... You know, he just had questionable heart. I mean, that performance he put in against Luis Ortiz in Monaco, that was a disgrace. That was an absolute disgrace. That was Luis Ortiz's Matchroom debut. HBO even covered that fight in Monaco. It was on Sky Sports as well. And he absolutely... Like, Ortiz... Well, I suppose I can't really blame Ortiz when you have a fighter that negative. But he never fought again after that, and obviously he did fight Deontay Wilder. Now, why do I take issue with some of the things Malik Scott is saying there? Well, he's saying he doesn't know why Deontay couldn't pull the trigger. I know exactly why. Because Deontay Wilder is suffering from... Well, he'll be suffering now from the Zhang loss, definitely. But he's suffering from those two Fury defeats. It's made him gun shy. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work that out. And as well as that, the hunger is not there for Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder became heavyweight champion of the world. He held that title for 5 years. He has made millions upon millions. The desire just isn't there. I mean, he has taken some of the Graham Hancock, which maybe has made him see things different and maybe mellowed him out, because he's definitely a lot more mellow nowadays in comparison to what he was. But when Malik Scott is talking about big things in 2025, he's in the second half of his career, this, that and the other, and then telling fans who have an opinion, like myself, that he should retire, to just shut up. Well, the reason why I say he should retire, Malik Scott, if you are watching this, right, is because unlike you, who seem to just be there to pick up a payday, because Malik Scott didn't make that much money in his pro career. He's making, 10% of whatever Wilder makes. So let's say Wilder made, hypothetically, 10 million in his last 2 fights. That's, roughly 2 million from Malik Scott before tax. So there you go. I mean, that's probably more than he's made throughout the course of his whole boxing career. So Malik Scott is seeing the bag with Deontay Wilder. The only person in Wilder's team who ever really, truly had his best interest was his former trainer, Mark Breland. And we saw what happened. Deontay Wilder binned them. Malik Scott telling fans, like myself, people who were critical of Deontay Wilder, to just shut up and to not watch. No. Malik Scott, here's the thing, right? People like myself and other people as well who are calling for Deontay Wilder to retire, is when you get to that stage in your career, he's 39 years old, he's not going to get any better, okay? He's lost that killer instinct. That killer instinct is not there. If it's gone now, it's unlikely you're going to get it back. Especially considering the fact that when he was younger and fresher, he was fighting to put food on the table. He was fighting for his young daughter, who I believe spina bifida is what she was, still is, probably inflicted with. He was fighting to provide for his family. He's done that. He's provided for them. They're set. He's done everything he needs to do. So where's he going to get the desire from? And furthermore, the reason why I say Deontay Wilder should retire is because he has suffered 3. I know he's lost 4 of his last 5, but he didn't really take a beating in the Parker fight. But he's suffered 2 devastating knockouts, big beatings in some of those. So he didn't really take a beating in the Zhang fight, but it was a devastating knockout. But he took a beating in the Fury trilogy fight. He took a beating in the rematch, right? That's going to age you. But that can have residual effect on you long term, potentially. And the longer you stay around, the higher the chances of you leaving this sport with some residual damage gets. Especially considering the fact that he's pushing 40. He'll be 40 next year. So that is why the likes of myself call for Deontay Wilder to retire, because he's not going to get any better. He's not in the same sort of demand he was a couple of years ago. And furthermore, I want to see Deontay Wilder enjoy the fruits of his labour. I want to see him sail off into the sunset with all the money in the world and all of his faculties in check. Do you? Oh no, you just want to see your bank balance get a little bit bigger. That's all. And that's literally it. That's literally what Malik Scott is saying there. And the problem with Deontay is that Deontay Wilder has always thought of himself as the guy who makes the decisions. Never that. It was always Al Heyman, Shelley Finkel, and now you add, and JD's as well. I mean, that guy is just, yeah. And now you add, of course, Malik Scott into the team, who, again, as I said, he's making money. And I don't see many fighters lining up to work with Malik Scott. You know, it's a bit like Tunde Ajayi. You know, they have that one guy, they want to hold on to him. They want to try their best to make as much money, not necessarily for the fighter, but for themselves. And if that means giving him bad advice, if that means, well, with Tunde Ajayi, it's just, that's just backfired completely with Anthony Yarde. But with Deontay Wilder and Malik Scott, he just wants to keep chucking Deontay Wilder out there until it just becomes apparent that the Saudis don't want to work with. I was going to call the Turkey. It becomes apparent that the Saudis and Turkey Al-Rashid don't want to work with him anymore, because what's the point? And I think that if he goes out again against a Joshua, Andy Ruiz, a Jarrell Miller, and loses badly, or loses, or maybe even wins, but wins in not Deontay Wilder fashion, as a laboured, dull 12-round decision, they're not going to work with him. I think with Turkey is kind of, it's like I said in the video I did the other day with Deontay Wilder, you're living off your past reputation. We know what Deontay Wilder was, and we think if we can find that, we've got something. But I don't think we have it. I don't think he can bring it out of himself anymore. And I think if Turkey knows that, then he's just going to be like, I don't want to work with Deontay Wilder. And he's never going to get the paydays that maybe he feels he wants, or something like that with PBC. Certainly not. So, look, they're talking about Wilder coming back in 25. Look, will I watch it? Yes. Do I think it should be happening? No. I personally, for me, I always say if a fighter wants to go with one last win, I don't see a problem with them taking an easy touch, going out with one last win, sailing off into the sunset. The names he's mentioning, I mean, you might be okay with Ruiz, but the other two, nah. Nah, not at this point anyway. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button, jab that, hit it, do whatever you can, but hit that like button like your life depended on it. I appreciate you tuning in. Peace.